Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fragrant Bunker. Today we're going to do the top 5 perfumes for the month of March. Look what a beautiful backdrop. It's everything is in bloom. It looks like Beverly Hills in a way. I mean, from the 80s though. And I am kind of dressed in an 80s vibe. A bit of Vivienne Westwood, a bit of Chanel, a bit of everything going on here. And so, but we're going to focus on the Chanel perfumes that I am enjoying so much this March. Let's get to the first one. First, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Push the join button next to the subscription button. Become a member today, gain access to extra perks. You can also join me on Patreon. Superdacob all spelled together there as well for extra perks. Push the notification bell as well to get notified every time I post a new video. And thumb up this one. Let's begin with a beauty. Oh man, this year March is making me feel some type of way. What can I say? Green, green, green. You can see all the kind of green fading into blue in my little AI-generated mansion. And something that goes really well with this color tone is Chanel number 19, the Eau de Parfum. Now, because I do have a green screen on, the green juice in here, the green is kind of filtered out, so it does appear a little bit more yellow than green. That's because of the green screen. Otherwise, my juice is a kind of an intense green color. And I've had this bottle for quite some time. I do stock up on these from time to time, so I do have several brand new sealed bottles because you never know. I'm always paranoid that they're going to discontinue it. They're not officially discontinue it, you guys. I'm not sounding the alarm officially to anyone. I'm just saying I'm personally always paranoid. Also scared that they're going to, reformulate it in a bad way. And, they have been watering it down. But anyway, this is batch code 2901. So this one I've had this one for what, 7-8 years now. Beautiful Jacques Polge 90s concoction. Green Chypre. However, the Eau de Toilette is Henri Robert, and it is from the 70s. It is the Chanel Chypre. This one is from the 90s. It's a little bit more tame. It's a little bit more docile. It's less of a cold-blooded, cold-hearted, snobby creature walking down the streets of Paris. This one is a little bit more approachable, albeit still in its own realm. I mean, there's nothing like Chanel number 19, It's this dry, slightly bitter person that has lived a lot, and you just know it ain't gonna end well. It's one of these people that they're just very realistic. They're like, life isn't forever. Things are what they are. Let's enjoy it as long as it lasts. But so this is one of the reasons why I also wore the outfit that I'm wearing today, because it's punk. I mean, Vivienne Westwood is at her core punk, and I've met Vivienne. I've worked with her. We've done a movie together, Art Lovers Unite, with Patrick John Thomas and Vivienne Westwood. And she, to me, why am I saying all of this? Because she has, personally for me, so many similarities to Coco Chanel. I mean, she comes from a different era, a different epoch, different times. But if Coco was born, or were to had she been born in the time of Vivienne Westwood, she would have probably ended up like Vivienne in a weird way. They have way more similarities than one thinks. And so for me, Chanel number 19 is very much kind of this punk chic attitude, believe it or not. A lot of people like to connect Chanel number 19 to this image of sophisticated, dry bourgeoisie, upper bourgeoisie. Money is there, a certain type of sophisticated, cold, detached elegance. Well, this is why I'm saying it's like the reverse of the same token. That's what punk is, but in reverse. It is also detached. It is also extremely elegant in its own way of being anti-everything. And there's an aesthetic to it that is so specific, so precise, just like Chanel number 19. This is the punk perfume, believe it or not. So there you go. Shocking revelations in the Fragrant Bunker. Chanel number 19, the punk perfume for the month of March. And because it is so rebellious, in a very conservative way, which is like the opposite, right? Of rebellious is conservative. But this one manages to be rebellious in a conservative way, and so underrated nowadays, you know, the chillin', the youngins of today. It's like this perfume doesn't stand a chance unless some baboon doesn't discover it on TikTok. Oh, the sadness of the travesty of the times we live in. Looking forward to whatever platform is going to come next after TikTok. And you know they will. Platforms will come and go. Chanel number 19 will stay forever. That is another quote from Coco Chanel, slightly different. Of course, she says, you know, fashion comes and goes, but style is forever. And then she also says, I am style. Thumb up this video, not just because of all the perfumes, but because of also all the March shade. The next one, oh, how I love thee. Here is a very rebellious, connected to the arts, muse to many artists, Coco Chanel's frenemy turned perfume back in 2014/2015, right before the Les Exclusives were turned into Eau de Parfums. This was the last Eau de Toilette released, and the nose behind it is Olivier Polge. This was Olivier's first Les Exclusives fragrance for the House of Chanel after his father, Jacques, retired. Now, I believe Jacques also contributed to the creation of this one to help his son out, probably, and also because, let's face it, if you've been the king of a Maison like Chanel, like, it's not so easy for you to let go of control. So I do believe that Misia, even though Olivier takes, you know, he takes the name, I mean, he takes the blame for Misia. I do believe that his daddy dearest, also has had an input in it. So this is the Eau de Toilette. I'm not a fan of the Eau de Parfum, so you can see in the back, on the back of the stickers where they have the concentrations listed. So this is, in fact, the Eau de Toilette, and it just focused a second ago. There it is. So I do prefer Misia and the Eau de Toilette concentration to the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum is a little bit messy. They need to tweak it a little bit better. Olivier Zubana. The Eau de Toilette is cold in just the right way. All the berries in here, and the violets, and the raspberry, and the sparkling aldehydes make this smell like a ginger red-haired Misia, kind of. You know, it's a very bizarre idea, connecting this perfume to such a strong character that was so important to Coco's life. And this is why I'm choosing Misia for March this year, because upon Boy Capel's passing, it is said that Misia took Chanel on a journey through Venice and on a journey through most of Europe, just to get her mind off of her sorrows, her mourning, and just to kind of, I don't know, I guess make her find again passion for living, really. And she chose to do so through, well, you know, taking her to Venice to see all the Byzantine art and the Baroque art, and it really, really moved Coco, apparently. Well, I mean, she also, you know, introduced her to morphine, but that's a whole other sad story and can of worms. And by the way, everything I say in this video is for entertainment purposes only, not rooted in truths or facts. Everything's alleged and just my opinion. So there's that, but there's a beautiful biography on Misia that you should check out. A lot of it is described there. So anyway, there's the one biography. I forget now who wrote it. I have the book in my archives. So why for March? Because she took Coco on this journey of self-rediscovery through the pain and the sorrow, right? It's kind of a rebirth. It's kind of a new spring, you know, and March is the month when spring begins. So Misia is very much the symbol of that new awakening, you know, the new spring. Coco Chanel's new spring is Misia, I believe, and for better or for worse, because like I said, they were frenemies. They did have a love-hate relationship between them. But this perfume is a beauty. Just, you gotta dose it very tamely. It's not... you know, if I overspray this, it's obnoxious. It doesn't leave me for an entire day. And it is quite powdery and dry as well. So it has that orris root in there floating as well within the aldehydes and all those berries and the violet. And it just keeps kind of pumping out that powder and pumping out a specific type of very sharp eau de toilette, a sharp kind of cut through all of that powdery, pinky red nuance. There's a blade, there's like a metal blade that keeps cutting and chopping off whatever extra plants are there to allow you safe passage to the other side. And sometimes that blade that cuts through is a little bit too much for me. That's Mesia for you, my number 2. Number 3 is a beautiful one. It's kind of a perfume I wear on colder days in March when I contemplate nature. They're usually crystalline, beautifully clear blue sky days and slightly cold and crisp, but you smell spring in the air. You smell life in the air. You smell nature is about to burst into bloom. And then, you know, come April and May, it's going to be beautifully green and the chlorophyll is going to fill the air, the plants. And but right before that happens, there's the allure of nature dormant, just about to wake up. Such a beauty. So I really enjoy wearing Allure, the eau de toilette. Turn the little logo to the front there. Allure eau de toilette for March. This is 100 ml. What's the batch code here? 7201. So this one's like 2 years old, I want to say. 2 years old now. I also love the hair mist from Allure. It's really beautiful in the hair. So if you're on a little bit of a budget, the hair mist does do the trick like the eau de toilette does. Slightly more watered down, of course. But hair transports a perfume better than skin, really. So the hair mist will do the trick just as well, and it's going to smell amazing in case you're in a little bit of a budget pinch, but you still want your fix of Chanel in March. Allure is amazing. It is like a modern version of, not modern, a 90s version, like a cocooned in cotton and silk, you know, 90s version of Chanel number 22. They are different, but there's a similarity between them because it's like the continued evolution of Chanel number 22, but for the masses. And Jacques Polge is the nose behind this one. And it's kind of catered to a vision of the 90s that are going into the second half of the 90s. And so we are already projected towards the Y2K era, even though it's not there yet, because this perfume was released in the 90s. So there was no real knowledge of how the year 2000 was going to look like. But Allure already kind of projects Chanel fragrances into the future. It has that 2000s in mind, you know, the noughties in mind as it's released. And so it's a beautiful 90s fragrance, but it's projected towards the future. And again, really great in March because, like I said, I feel life about to burst and coming. So this is a beautiful one that projects that emotion and that feeling and that vibe towards the future, but in the present. It's like it's already here, but it announces something really spectacular to come. Very alluring, very alluring. It kind of tells you, hey, what is about to come is something really good. So it's a very optimistic fragrance. A little peachy vibe going on in there. Super cute. Love my Allure Eau de Toilette. I also have the Extrait in a 15 milliliter splash bottle, but there is also the Eau de Parfum, which I currently do not own at this time because I really enjoy the Eau de Toilette more for the time being. Number 4 is connected to Mesia, in a way. So we got our Misia taking Coco to Venice story. And that story continues when in Venice, because we have Paris Venice as our fourth Chanel fragrance for the month of March from the Les Eaux collection. It is an eau de toilette, sandalwood, delicate, soft sandalwood, floral aldehydic sandalwood, powdery, misty, dusty, very Venetian. Such a beautiful, this is Chanel doing Venice, Chanel, the Chanel way, the Chanel style. Could have a little bit more longevity, but I adore Paris Venice. It's just, I have here the first batch ever made, I think, 2703. Oh man, I remember when they released the Les Eaux, there was 3 of them in the beginning, Paris Deauville, Paris Biarritz, and Paris Venice. I bought all 3, some I bought double. Super excited for them, love these bottles. They are very reminiscent of 30s Chanel perfume bottles. And the stopper isn't though, but they're not magnetic. I was thinking they were going to do them magnetic just like they did the Les Exclusives, but they didn't. They simplified them. This is such a beautiful bottle. Oh man, actually, dare I say this is one of my favorite Chanel bottles, bottle designs. Yes, I do love my Splash, classic Chanel No. 5 perfume bottle, which kind of is also translated a little bit differently in proportions to their eau de parfum classics. And I do really, and by the way, I do prefer the 200 ml bottle design of the Les Exclusives to the 75 mils. The 75 mils are too thin and elongated. I like these. They have more girth. But anyway, I think the proportions are better on the 200 mil. In fact, they first released the 200 mils, and then people like myself were complaining that it's really hard to travel and fly with these because 200 mil, they're not going to let you take these on board. You're going to have to check it in if you're flying, and I don't want to check in my Chanel perfumes. So then Chanel listened, and then Chanel brought out the 75 mils. I just wish they would have downsized the 200 mils, like kept the same proportion, but just shrunk it to a 75 mil. That's what I would have preferred. Instead of what they did, they kind of elongated it, but kept more or less the height. The 75 mils are not as tall as the 200 mils, but they're slimmer and tall. And I would have preferred the exact same proportions of the 200 mil, but just shrunk in a 75 mil version. Like, Chanel, come on. That was like a no-brainer. But anyway, maybe the slender version is easier to put in a bag for transportation purposes. I guess that was the idea behind it. Anyway, we digress. This is such a beautiful bottle design. And I don't know if Chanel still does this, but they used to give you a little soft pouch for every bottle you purchase of the Les Eaux, which I still own. And the pouch had the name of the specific fragrance you were buying. So it was like beautifully made for you to transport them, to keep the bottles safe while you're traveling. Another issue, however, I'm having with these is, of course, and again, Chanel did it maybe on purpose, I don't know, but they first released 125 mils, which is this. And the 125 mil, well, what are you going to do? You can't take it on board with you. So like a year or two later, they introduced the 50 mils. Now 50 mil is really small. I'm like, why don't you just do 100 mil? Why do we have to always play these games? So anyway, the 50 mil is definitely too small for me. I mean, I have several bottles of the 50 mil, but if I could choose, I would choose for travel purposes the 100 mil. Just saying. And anyway, the proportions of the 125 mil are really beautiful. The bottle is just divine. It's just, unfortunately, not... we're still not allowed. Laws are changing. It might be allowed again in the future to travel with on-board luggage with something more than 100 mil. Some airports are already doing it, I suppose. But anyway, we digress again. Such a beauty in March, man. It's a hopeful fragrance projected towards the future, but with very, very precise knowledge of the past and of the beauty of art and architecture, music. Oh man, I mean, this thing echoes time travel in such a beautiful way, and yet it's projected towards the future. Like looking forward to gathering all that we've learned from the past and kind of turning that into something new for the future. That's what Paris Venice is to me. Number 5 is a classic beauty. It's kind of one of those perfumes that not many people wear or not many people talk about from Chanel because I don't know why. Maybe because it's just so perfect that it doesn't really... It's so sublime and perfect that just like Coco Chanel described female animals, she said, she always escapes in the color beige. She said a lot of the animals that she adores are beige in color, whether it be the female lion or the female peacock. The male peacock has the blue, purple, green feathers and all that opulence and decadence. Not the female. The female is invisible. The female is this brown color, small feathers. It hides in nature, and that's for most animals in the animal kingdom. The females are that way. So Coco would transport that to her clothing and would also find ways to define what the color beige is to her. And she often would say, I hide within the color beige. This camellia has quite a few tones in it, typical to Chanel, beige being one of them. And beige is the hardest to find because it kind of just tends to disappear. But in the description of the color codes for this particular camellia, there is pink, gray, white, and beige. And so that translated into perfume form would be, well, somehow I attribute, and I know you're going to think, oh, you chose the perfume beige. No, no, perfume beige is not on the list. There is a transformation. So basically, when something is so pristine and perfect that it just fits within the scenery, it kind of goes unnoticed. Not because it's not strong enough or not good enough, but actually because it just belongs there. It just belongs there. It has its raison d'être. You know what I mean? It has its own reason of being, of existing. Nobody questions it. Nobody questions it because it's just so clear. No matter how high or low your IQ is, no matter how high or low your emotional intelligence is, you smell this perfume and you're kind of, you pass by it thinking, oh yeah, of course, this is the perfume. Moving on. Nothing shocks you about it, And interestingly enough, this beige context and the female animal usually being less visible than the male animal. There are other reasons for that, of course, as well, to protect the babies, and the mother has to survive as long as possible. There's a lot of reasons for it. We're not going to get into all of that now, but that translated into perfume form would be Chypre to me. And Chypre fragrances are very natural to me. They kind of behold a certain quality to them that catapults them into pure nature, like the rawest of nature forms, the most intense of nature forms, because nature is heartless, really. It's primitive. It's an instinct of survival is what it is, and it just keeps going and going. And so I do believe that Jacques Polge with Sheldrake designed kind of a new approach to Chypre when they designed this one. My number 5 for the month of March. 31 Rue Cambon. And this is the Eau de Toilette. What a masterpiece. Just, it's so silent, you get goosebumps. I mean, you smell this and you are at peace. It's not necessarily that this perfume is peaceful, because it's not, but you smell it and you realize, oh yeah, okay, this is how a perfume needs to smell. Just like when you see a Chanel ensemble, you're like, okay, well, this is how a fashion ensemble needs to look like. Just like when you, see the 255 Chanel bag, you're like, yeah, of course, this is how a bag needs to look like. I mean, she knew what she was doing. You see a Chanel hat, she started in millinery. You're like, yeah, but this is how a hat needs to look like. And that's what you smell with 31 Rue Cambon. You smell it and you know, oh, this is how a perfume needs to smell like. And that's why this one is kind of that feminine, animal, invisible creature. We take it for granted because you smell it and you're like, yeah, of course, this is always what I envisioned a perfume to smell like. But we take for granted the fact that it's really hard to create a composition that goes there and actually delivers that concept in perfume form. And not coincidentally, the name is 31 Rue Cambon because that's where the heart of Coco Chanel's haute couture was. And in some parts, you could say it still is today. So this is kind of where everything is born, where the ideas are born, where the style is maintained, where the heritage is kept, where creations are born that deliver from season to season. And I'm really becoming more and more a fan of Virginie Viard. From season to season, she manages to deliver the essence of Coco Chanel through time and space and materials in such a beautiful way. A lot of respect to her, really. She's winning me over big time. And 31 Rue Cambon is exactly that. It's a time and a space and a smell in March that just lets you know you're in the right space, you're in the right place, what you're doing is good. Keep doing what you're doing. Never take it for granted, even though sometimes it appears to be for granted. Those rare days and occasions when you wake up and you're kind of happy and you're like, yeah, I should be always happy. I should always wake up without any pain. I should always be not sick. But then we take all that for granted up until the moment when we do get sick, up until the moment when we do feel pain. All of a sudden our world crumbles and we kind of try to, step back and think, oh man, oh, it was so good when I was healthy, right? And that's what this perfume is. It reins it back into appreciating what is natural, appreciating what is so beautiful about life when it's there, and when it can be lived out to its fullest without any big added ornaments, just as pure as it is. And as Coco would say, the best things in life are free. Second best, very expensive. 31 Rue Cambon Eau de Toilette, what a masterpiece. And one of the reasons why I decided doing this series on my channel, usually I do my top 5 perfumes for every month, and these perfumes belong to different brands. Hashtag not sponsored, but I'm just saying I started relatively a short while ago doing my top 5 Chanel fragrances for every month because there's not enough time, really, and not enough space to kind of revisit each fragrance all over again as much as I would love to, re-review them after some time has passed, by giving them the special window of an extra video a month of doing the top 5 Chanel fragrances for the month of any given month. I kind of managed to add more information about the fragrances that I love so much, like almost like little tiny bonbons, like little tiny reviews within a bigger video that keep enriching and adding to the flavor of the reviews of these perfumes that I love so much. So you're going to find me adding information to these perfumes that you're not going to hear me maybe say in the actual full-blown review video of each individual perfume. But as time passes and as I live with these fragrances more and more, and the more stories they tell me, and the more I can then kind of convey to you. And I thought the best way to do that at the moment would be through these special extra, top 5 Chanel perfume videos every month. I hope you're enjoying them. Let me know if you are. If you're not, if nobody wants to see them, let me know, because then I can, spare myself the time and not do them. So let me know what your thoughts are. These were my top 5 Chanel perfumes for the month of March. Let me know your favorites for this month if you have any. And thumb up this video if you're enjoying it. Subscribe to my channel and never give up on love. See you next time. Bye. Mwah.